Okay, hello everyone. My name is Xiao, a second year PhD student from University College London, and my research topic is about BIM and also blockchain. But today I will only present a part of my research. The topic is towards a theoretical framework of trust in BIM-enabled collaboration. First, I will talk about my motivation to do this research. First is about why it's talk about BIM. There is a main argument about the application of BIM is someone think BIM is a key solution to increase productivity in the construction. But someone argued in the construction industry, BIM doesn't solve the problems that it's supposed to solve. And one example is for many small and medium-sized companies in the construction industry, they are not willing to invest resources to use BIM because they think the outcomes to apply BIM is hard to measure, and they need to cost a lot to apply BIM. But the truth is, in the UK, there is a compulsory requirement is for the government project, the stakeholders need to prove they have applied BIM to a certain level. So there is a trend to apply BIM in the construction industry. And then why my research topic is about collaboration and trust. And in the construction industry, the topic of collaboration and trust have been raised for over 20 years. And for example, in the Latham's report, he thinks if we increase the collaboration, maybe the productivities in the construction could be improved. And another example is in 2022, a report thinks in the BIM project, if we operating it in a high trust environment, maybe they can increase the profits. And why my topic is about trust, because I have mentioned before, my research topic will also related to blockchain, and trust is the key benefits improved by blockchain. So besides trust is also a key factor to facilitate collaboration. So my research topic is about developing a trust framework in BIM-enabled collaboration. In some, overall appeals will take years to emphasize the importance of improving collaboration and developing trust. However, in the construction industry, people tend to solve problems based on their own experience rather than think deeply about why some collaboration issues or trust issues came out. So we felt it's time to clarify and debate the precise nature of trust in the construction industry. It seems unlikely we can make some progress in this area of research until some consensus is reached about what trust issue in BIM is and what is not. Here it comes out my research question and research aim. This research aims to explore the meaning and the dimensions of trust in the context of BIM-enabled collaboration. And the research question is, what can be a theoretical trust framework in BIM-enabled collaboration? And then there is my methodology. There is no consensus about what trust in the construction industry and the nearly low trust framework in BIM-enabled collaboration. So this research tries to develop a new trust framework based on some fundamental subjects, because construction projects are made of a series of human activities and economic transactions. And we think trust framework in BIM-enabled collaboration could be developed based on trust in psychology and trust in economics. So they are the theory foundation of my trust framework. And based on this foundation, initial trust framework is proposed. Lastly, in order to verify the reliability of this initial trust framework, this research finds some examples in virtual collaboration relationship, which is a BIM-like environment. The example shows is two trust dimensions mentioned in the VCR are covered by the proposed trust framework in BIM-enabled collaboration. So it's reliable that the trust framework developed based on trust in psychology and trust in economics should have considered trust comprehensively in BIM-enabled collaboration. And I will explain it in details later. First, I will talk about my theory foundation. Let me remind you my research topic is try to develop a theoretical framework on trust in the construction industry. However, really low widely accepted trust framework in this era. So this research trying to develop a new one. First, this research have reviewed trust framework in psychology and also in economics, because these two subjects have studied about trust for years and they have well-established trust framework. Besides, trust in construction should be related to human activities and also economic transactions, so it's highly related with psychology and economics. From psychological aspect, trust is a state of mind facing others' attentions and actions. The major difference about the definition of trust between economics and psychology is whether the trust is calculable or not. In economics, trust is calculable, but in psychology, trust is not calculable and uncertain. So that's a part of reason why the dimensions of trust in these two subjects are different, and as you can see in these two tables, the dimensions are different. And besides, another point I want to mention here is both subjects emphasize the interactions between the different trust dimensions. And now, based on the theory in psychology and economics, I propose my trust framework in BIM-enabled collaboration, because construction projects are made up of series of human collaborations and economic constructions. Now I got my new trust framework in BIM-enabled collaboration. As you can see, the first three dimensions comes from psychology, and the last three comes from economics. Now you may have a question about whether it's reasonable to use 6 dimensions in psychology and economics to develop a trust framework in BIM-enabled collaboration. And the answer is yes. I find some supporting evidence from virtual collaboration relationship. It's a BIM-like environment, and the trust dimensions and trust components mentioned in VCR could be explained by theories about trust in psychology and trust in economics, and I will explain to you in details now. Here I listed 2 studies about virtual collaboration relationship. These 2 graphs shows 2 trust framework developed in VCR. They have some things in common. For example, in the first graph, trust consists of cognitive trust, deposition to trust, and institution-based trust. If you think back about trust theory in psychology and economics, you can find there are some similarities between the name of these dimensions, like cognitive trust have been mentioned in psychology, and institution-based trust have been mentioned in economics. It's not a coincidence. If we check trust factors under each dimensions, we can find it's true the factors discussed in VCR are highly overlapped with trust factors in psychology and economics. This situation happens again in the second graph. So in the second trust framework, the first dimension, calculative trust, have been mentioned in economics, and also the third one also have been mentioned in economics. So there are some proof that trust dimensions in a BIM-like environment, VCR, are covered by the combination of trust dimensions in psychology and economics. However, you might be confused why some similar factors are grouped into different dimensions. For example, contract in the first graph belongs to institution-based trust, while contract belongs to calculative trust in the second graph. So now it comes to the value of this research. The examples in VCR show no consensus in components of trust, it might be a big issue to consider trust issues comprehensively. So this research develops a trust framework in BIM-enabled collaboration. It has benefits to guide stakeholders to find, prevent, and solve trust issues easily and comprehensively. The last point I want to mention here is, except there are overlaps between trust dimensions in VCR and trust dimensions in psychology and economics, these two researches inspire us to think more on trust framework. Specifically, they emphasize the interaction between different trust dimensions, and they also showed different dimensions have different influence on the development of early trust and long-term trust. And I recognize, in order to analyze trust issues in BIM comprehensively, apart from identifying trust dimensions and noticing the interactions between different trust dimensions, we should also pay attention to the relation between trust dimensions and how to develop a trust. So, because different dimensions may have different impact on developing early trust or long-term trust. Now I'll come to my conclusions. This research critically reviewed trust literature in psychology, economics, and virtual collaboration to discuss the meaning and the dimension of trust in BIM-enabled collaboration. And we think the trust dimension in psychology and economics can be a useful starting point for building a theoretical framework of trust in BIM-enabled collaboration. And for the future work, we think we need to explore and validate the dimensions of trust employed in psychology and economics, because there might be some overlap between each dimensions. And then we need to explore the interrelationships between different dimensions of trust, because all three subjects, psychology, economics, and VCR, they all emphasize we need to pay attention to this part. And then we need to pay attention to the relationship between different trust dimensions and early trust or long-term trust. The last part I need to pay attention is to explore the different units of analysis relevant to trust in BIM-enabled collaboration, whether the trust is between individuals or trust between organizations, or is between individual and organizations. Okay, here is my reference list, and thank you for listening. And if you have any question, you are welcome to ask.